Good evening, ASQ Innovation TC and ASQ Government Division attendees and our industry writ large. Tonight, we welcome Mr. Sunil Jain with contrasting approaches to AI across the globe. You are going to be in for the treat because Mr. Sunil Jain is an executive and security architect within SAP's business technology platform. He also chairs the SAP's worldwide or SAP's Worldwide Cryptography Center of Excellence, and he specializes in all of the areas that he's going to be speaking to you about tonight. So I know we have some people that are very focused on the quality aspect, some people who are focused on AI writ large and applicable across many, but what you see in this bio here is really how AI can be harnessed across multiple industry segments and globally. Again, Sunil has a phenomenal technology background, both from his technology patents, publications, keynotes, and awards, but also going back to his academia. And more than that, he pays it forward by giving back to each and every one of you through mentoring, angel investing, and advising. So without further ado, I now welcome Mr. Sunil Jain to begin his presentation with our phenomenal ASQ and industry audience, contrasting approaches to AI across the globe. Mr. Jain?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Farrell. And thank you all of you who have already joined us. I'm certainly looking forward to a good session today. I think I want to make it as interactive as possible. So the more questions you ask us and the more questions you can kindly put on the chat, I think that will be fantastic. Okay. So with that, let me begin with introducing the topic first. So as Dr. Rhonda Farrell said, approaches to AI across the globe. I'm going to provide you some glimpses from North America, Europe, and Asia. And specifically, in the interest of time and scope of the conversation, I'm going to zoom into USA, China, and European Union. So with that, just a quick disclaimer here that the views are personal and human. They are not generated by an AI. With that, let me start with walking you through today's agenda. I think what we're going to do is first look into what is artificial intelligence, a quick level set on the terminology because it is there's a lot of hype in the market and there's a lot of things that are happening, as you will see very shortly in the presentation. So it's very important that for this session, we level set our terminology and that way we can all start calibrated. Then I'm going to give you a little example of how stuff works, a typical flow of an AI engine, which probably most of you have already used that so far by now. And then we're going to talk about some risks in adopting AI. Then we'll have the main section where we're going to zoom into the global dynamics of especially from the regulatory point of view, what US is doing, what European Union is doing, and what China is doing. I am intentionally not covering Japan, which is one of the foremost intelligence and artificial intelligence country, especially in the field of industrial automation and robotics. I'm not covering that. And I'm also not covering other economies like China and Korea and other Asian economies. Okay. And that is just so that we can focus on these three and then have some interesting dynamics emerge from that. We're going to summarize towards the end and we'll keep ample time for your questions. And I would again request you to kindly make it as interactive as possible. All right. So with that, and Dr. Farrell, please kindly stop me anytime, and you are welcome to kind of convey the questions from the chat if there is anything important, as I'll be focusing on the slides, so kindly let me know, okay? So I would like to kind of start with one, artificial intelligence is an extremely interesting phenomena that is happening. And in my last 30 plus years in the industry, uh, I think the first time something like this happened was when the internet boom started with the personal computers in the early 90s, when suddenly people started having websites and emails and things like that, and then e-commerce came on the horizons, and companies like Amazon and Google started getting formed, and then social media came in with Facebooks and all that. So I think we are exactly in a similar situation here in the early 20s, just like we were in 1993s. We are in the same situation as with the artificial intelligence in 2023s. It's a real changer. We are expecting that pretty much a lot of analysts are thinking it will be about $16 trillion worth of contributions due to this new phenomenon to the global economy by 2030. And McKinsey in 2016 had actually published a very interesting report on the impacts of AI, and they expect that by between 2016 and 2030, 400 million jobs, especially the knowledge worker jobs, will be displaced by AI. And when they say displaced, it is not the jobs will be eliminated or destroyed. These jobs will be displaced means everybody will have a smarter, different, or slightly different or significantly different way of doing things. We already are. If you look at when you drove anywhere today, your GPS was helping you, and that GPS is nothing but an AI engine underneath. You have when you write an email, a recommendation on the email starts emerging for you, and that is an AI thing. When you go to shopping on Amazon.com, and a recommendation engine tells you what you can purchase, or what is an item that people with your kind of habits are purchasing, that's an AI. When you travel in your car, like when you drive in your car, the manufactured by robots that are extremely sophisticated in nature, and they use AI. So it's not that AI is happening for the first time. What is happening for the first time is a democratization of AI. What I just kind of coined this term, but I don't know. I'm sure, the others are also thinking the same way. We are essentially into an era when it is a personal AI, I call. And personal AI means it is something like just like I used to have a smartphone, and that smartphone is my own. Before that, I had my personal computer, and it was my own. Likewise, I'm now getting into an era where the AI will be my own. I'll have my own chatbots, and have my own digital assistants, and I'll have my own helpers, which are very smart. They're always helping me, and they'll be customized to me, they'll be fine-tuned to me, and I'll be able to direct them and use them as I like. So that's the kind of it's a very different type of a phenomena that, again, as I say, it is very rare, and it is probably happening after almost like 30 years. So we are going to pretty soon, not only the smart factories, but like the quantum, and we'll see earthquake predictors, and we'll see galaxy discoverers, and all kind of virtual engineers of will be there. So essentially, we are in for a big treat here. Now, to give you some vocabulary, I'll just go with 5 popular terms, and I want to leave this slide with you as a reference, so that it's in summary here. But artificial intelligence, the first term, which is we are using throughout this webinar as well, it refers to the machine's ability to emulate human thinking and actions. So it's the human like is the kind of key word here. And it involves sensing, it involves learning, it involves adapting, reasoning, problem solving, all of those things that typically a human does as compared to all the other living species on the planet. That's what the computers can start doing it now for us. And that's what is that's why we call it artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence, it encompasses machine learning, it is natural language processing, which is more recent phenomena because of this chat GPT, and we'll talk about that. I'll give you the demo. Computer vision, robotics, expert systems. So that's what we mean by AI. Second term that I want to leave you with is neural networks, which is neural nets. These are the small processing units which are mimicking the human brain neurons. So as pretty much all of us know by now, as a human race, that our brain essentially, and then several things start happening for us as a special living thing on the planet. So same thing, so what we are doing here in the computing is that with the help of the hardware and the software and the algorithms, the things have come together to create these artificial brains or artificial neurons that can be basically mimicking a small brain or a large brain or a larger brain. So that's what these are. And the artificial neurons can learn algorithms to solve problems. They can have a supervised learning or through rewards and penalties to train them, or they can have an unsupervised learning, which we also call deep learning, for example, with large unsupervised models and vast data sets. And this is what actually very recently happened, that in end of November 2022, somewhere around December 2022, the generative AI era kicked off when OpenAI, the startup company essentially at that point, launched ChatGPT. So that brings us to the third term, which is generative AI. So what is generative AI? It comprises of the algorithms that can create human realistic content, like text, images, audio based on training data. And then the leading Gen AI models are built on extensive self-supervised training and with vast unlabeled data, unstructured data, to understand the patterns for various tasks. So this is the kind of key technology that has suddenly become very popular with the ChatGPT. The fourth is again in the current state of affairs, large language model or LLM, or they're also called foundation models for quite a lot. So the LLMs are the ones that predict the next word. So that's the fundamental capability that they have. They don't have any intelligence. The only thing that they do beautifully is they can predict the next word, and just by predicting the next word, pretty much they encompass the entire language, and as a result they encompass the entire human wisdom, and that's what you will see as we progress through this conversation today. So LLMs predict the next word in a sentence based on the prior context, emulating human-like conversation. So they like ChatGPT, they exhibit human-like intelligence and have demonstrated success in professional exams like GMAT, LCAT, USMLE. You name any exam and they have aced the exam. So they pretty much can essentially give you the answers that a very, very, very smart professional can give you. And this last term, which I would like you to kind of keep an eye on, is called explainable AI. And this is very important from the regulations point of view, which is the topic of today for us. And in the explainable AI means it provides insights into what influenced the AI results, which help users to interpret and trust the outputs. And this kind of transparency is important to ensure fairness, accountability, and regulatory compliance. In fact, in the beginning, I saw already a comment or two comments about on the chat about the bias and regulations for the bias. And so fairness is a very important thing, and accuracy is a very important thing, and accountability for that is an important thing. That's what explainable AI or XAI is. Okay. So with that, I hope, again, Dr. Farrell, please stop me if there are any urgent questions. Otherwise, I'll keep going.
We do have one question that I think is
Yes, please.
applicable. It says, do you believe AI will in the near term be truly artificial intelligence, or will it remain a method of analyzing and reciting data? They just would like clarity on the extent of the build out, sir.
So I think the short answer is I think it will continue to evolve. It'll probably be tending towards artificial intelligence, but not an autonomous intelligence. And I'm going to cover that in a couple of slides here, which will exactly, I think, set the context of the nuance between the way the question has been framed. So if you can hold it for like, a couple of slides, I think I'm coming there. Okay. All right, so let me give you a quick a typical workflow, how the typical flow happens in a chat GPT, which probably all of you have used. And if you have not, kindly do that. Like, go to the Google and search for chat GPT and sign up, and you'll ask questions, and it's free. One of the models is free, and you can just ask any question, and I'll give you the demo. Like, and it's very cool. So what happens is that you give it and you ask it a question, or just like you put something in Google search, and we call it prompt. So you give it an input prompt, and you start by providing an input prompt, which is the context and instruction you want the model to follow. Okay. So let's say, like, I asked it, hey, give me 2 jokes. So that's the prompt. And then I say, oh, give me 2 jokes about health sciences. That's another instruction in that prompt, and so on. Then what the model will do now in the behind the scenes is it will first of all tokenize your data, tokenize your prompt. So that means the input prompt or text will be broken down into smaller units, and these can be the words, or it can be even the character, or it can be a subword, or it can be a sub-sentence, or a phrase, or a sub-phrase. It will basically try to divide this whole thing into very, very small segments. And from those segments, it will try to see what should be the next logical token that should come and fit with it. So the mathematics part of it, or the science part of it, is actually is called embeddings, and each token then is associated with a high dimensional numerical vector representation, which is called embedding. And the embedding will capture the semantic relationship between these words, allowing the model to understand the context and the meaning. So that's what is happening behind the scenes, and this is what the work that has happened in the last 10 years or so, specifically in the last 6-7 years. Extremely high quality work happened in this space, which made this breakthrough possible. Then the model will, based on the embeddings, the model will, like ChatGPT-4, for example, will start utilizing its deep neural networks, and particularly the transformer architecture, which was the 2016-17 paper from Google specifically. So from that, during the inference, the model then takes the prompt as the input and generates the next token. So that's what is happening, and it's happening all behind the scene. There's a mathematical relationship of the embeddings that is taking place. So this essentially solving a mathematical matrix or matrices behind the scenes. And then it will essentially generate the text for you, which will be in the same language you asked the question and the model was trained on. So essentially, and it can be like a model in English, it can be a model in Japanese, it can be a model in Ethiopian, it can be a model in European languages, etc., etc. So the text generation, the model will sample from its learned probabilities to predict the most likely next token given the context, and that is what going to formulate your answer for you. So I think in the interest of time, I'll hold the demo towards the end. We'll have ample time, but I want to basically make sure I complete the material, then we'll come back to the demo. Okay, if it is okay with everyone. So why is AI advancing so rapidly? That's kind of one question in fact, till last month, I was not very clear myself on. But I think now, the more we deeply think about it, what is happening is there are 3 phenomena that have come together. It's like alignment of the stars, if I may call it. So what has happened is that if you look at in the last 30 years or so, the entire human wisdom has been digitized. We have Wikipedias, and you remember we used to have encyclopedias that were printed on books, paper. And those volumes of encyclopedias became Wikipedias and became digital. And then with Google search and all the search engines that happened, suddenly the entire internet became a huge database of information. And this information, some places in a very succinct way, a blog will help you understand the entire nuance of a topic. On the other end, it will be almost a bogus thing that, like, you will like to avoid, and so on and so forth. So all, for a whole spectrum of information is there. But bottom line, the key is that there's zettabytes of data which is available today, which essentially represents everything that human race does on the planet. The second thing that happened is simultaneously is that there's an unprecedented grasp on the neural networks and algorithms. The examples I was giving you in the earlier slide, how to create a vector database, how to create the embedding, how to calculate these embeddings, how to find how to do this tokenization, how to find the next token, etc., etc. So all these things, and how to mimic basically a human neuron or human brain neuron. That is what the algorithms and the techniques to do that, they suddenly became extraordinarily sophisticated. And thanks to the computing prowess that the scientists had on their disposal, so now you could literally take 1 million GPUs. It is possible thematically to take 1 million GPUs and daisy chain them, and they will compute, all of those will compute together for you something that you wanted to try. So it's a completely mind-boggling power of computing that we have now. Imagine that zettabytes of data and almost unlimited power of computing. And then when you combine that, the third one, which is a concerted global investment, and very big investment, not a small investment, very big investment of billions of dollars of the top brains of the world, the big tech and academia. All credit goes to big tech and academia for that. They did an amazingly wonderful job of funding these and letting these things continue for years and years and years without like an obvious result that was there. So there was no ROI to be seen for years, and people invested into that. So I think that's a fantastic phenomena that happened. And as a result, a lot of groundbreaking innovations happened, like this OpenAI, for example. So when these groundbreaking innovations, this amazing computing power and the zettabytes of data came together, so naturally we have the current state of AI. So we have the most common use cases today. You can have any kind of customer service that can be pretty much AI augmented. Your cybersecurity has completely changing the landscape, which is kind of my personal field. So I kind of exactly know what kind of amazing changes we are seeing in that field. AI as a tool, and also security for AI. So it's a kind of a both ways. Digital assistants of every kind. The product recommendation engines are becoming so much more sophisticated. The content production, the automatic content production is. I remember, I think it was in 2010 or so. I was in a business meeting in Tokyo, and then in Japan, and on the stage there was the robots were singing opera and giving a show on the stage, and it was a big phenomena in 2010. But now fast forward to today, pretty much everybody on the planet can create a content today because we have the personal AI available to use. So that's the power. And then inventory management, and customer relationships, and so on. I can go on, but bottom line is that by 2025, we believe that 95% of the customer interactions will be powered by AI, and there's almost $120 billion worth of business that is going to happen because of this additional business that's going to happen because of AI. So it's a big numbers, a big phenomena as happening. Okay. So with that, there are some risks, and in fact, there are a lot of risks. Now, in the interesting part is, and in these risks, there was a time when 2016 that McKinsey report came. All of us used to think, oh, like AI will come and suddenly the jobs will be, it will be a big problem for the jobs, or job displacement. 400 million knowledge workers will be displaced. But believe it or not, workforce displacement is a pretty low on the priority The real issues people are starting to focus on now, which is reality, is the inaccuracy. And I think in the chat also somebody asked that question right up front. The cybersecurity itself, the intellectual property infringement, the regulatory compliances, the explainability, etc. So give me 1 second, please. Sorry about that. So, then we have, so there are a lot of risks here, basically. So I think Senator Schumer, he stated beautifully recently. He said that AI is unlike anything Congress has dealt with before. And then he's not the only one. Like, Satya Nadella, who essentially is probably one of the biggest, Microsoft is one of the biggest investors in AI at this point. Um, they, they, he thinks that we should be thinking about co-pilots, not the autopilots. And then I think that I really like this quote by the Federation of Teachers President Randy Weingarten. Wendy says that America cannot make the same mistake with AI that it did with the social media. Or AI needs to supplement, not supplant educators. So, because as soon as this new phenomena is happening, at the same time, suddenly we have fraud GPTs. Like, so we have bias, we have deep fakes. The entire elections are at stake because of such things, and we have AI arm race, and that's exactly why we need a lot of regulation, which is we're going to go very deep into very quickly. Okay, so with that, any questions so far?
I think it's probably a couple that's more for later in your presentation, sir.
Got it. Got it. Got it. But thank you. Okay. So the artificial intelligence, global dynamics, the way I want to, and I think this answers the question that we were asking previously, which is the nuanced question. There are three ways we should be looking. At least I prefer to look at AI today. One is the embedded AI, in which the smart sensors and the tools and the machine vision and the machine manufacturing automation, robotics, business intelligence, all the things we pretty much typically do in our daily life right now. But for example, like, when on this webinar, you are watching my video and I'm watching your videos, and so the video data rate itself is adaptively getting adjusted to match the bandwidth of the optical fibers and the bandwidth of the cables that are getting to your endpoint, and so on and so forth. So similarly, so almost in everything, in every walk of life, we see embedded AI already happening. The co-pilots is that where I think we will find a huge investment as well as a change coming up in the next couple of years. And the co-pilots are the digital assistants in all walks of life. Whether if you're a doctor, you have a digital assistant. You are a nurse, you have a digital assistant. You have an engineer, you have a digital assistant. Teacher, you have it. Even if you're a student, you can ask ChatGPT to do your homework as your digital assistant. The question is that, like, whether it is ethical or not. Like, now that's where exactly the regulation and the ethics debate starts, and that's what, like, we're going to talk what the various countries are approaching it and how they're approaching it. But the third part, which is this fully autonomous AI, this is the place where I think we have the biggest danger. This is the place where we're talking about fully autonomous vehicles, fully autonomous missiles, bots that can essentially play the entire stock market for you without you even knowing about it. They bet their entire money on something without you even knowing about it, etc. So the decision-making expert systems, the AI journalists, they can write the most beautiful articles with their own mind, a virtual mind in a way, and the creatives, the lawyers, the coders. So you name any profession, and if you go fully autonomous in that space, now we are talking a very controversial topic. And then that's exactly was a nuance in the earlier question that was asked, that when is that going to happen? Well, in some places that can happen today. In some places it was already happening 2 years ago. But will that happen ubiquitously? Will it become a commonplace? Absolutely not. Because we are going to put a lot of regulations. Industries are doing a lot of effort in making sure that the fully autonomous AI is always remains in a human control. So that's the kind of mindset, but time will tell us where we go. So the innovators like Microsoft, OpenAI, Google, they're lobbying governments around the world in the favor of AI. Of course, with some regulations, of course, with some controls. But at the same time, they want the AI to be globally regulated, not segmented into various geos. So that's the kind of one mindset. And according to IBM, for example, of all the deployed AI adoption, over 40% is already in China and India, and that is just it's, not only an artifact of the population density there and the size of those countries in terms of population, but also because those are the two economies growing very fast, and a lot of IT happens in those two economies, which essentially automatically leads them to be the good recipients of this work that is happening elsewhere. So with that, let me give you a summary of what I'm going to talk in the next few slides about each country. But what I did was I thought it'll be easy for us that if we look at the summary first and then we'll go into each detail. So the way to read this chart is pretty straightforward: USA, EU, and China. And the strengths of US are that it is a leading AI researcher, big tech with a lot of funding. We have deep talent pool. Pretty much like majority of the innovation that is happening, especially in the very recent years about generative AI, is essentially most of it is out of US. Then European Union is their strength is that they are very ethical AI focused. Their regulatory frameworks are very sophisticated, and they're really promoting a lot of collaborative research. And in China, the government support is extremely phenomenal. The government is really behind the AI as one of their national programs. The data is available, and tremendous large amount of data is available, and there's a gigantic dynamic market that is available there. So it's kind of those are the strengths. Now, if you look at the weaknesses of these three geographies, US is lacking in federal regulations. I'm going to show you, in the next slides, how it is happening. And there's a potential bias issue here, right? So because as you might be reading the articles about this, there's a lot of digitized human wisdom that is sitting in the books and and in the open sources and somewhere anywhere, because there is an inherent bias in that literature. As a result, the models are trained on that biased wisdom, and as a result, we have a problem. But it's a very large scale problem, but it is a problem. Now, in the EU, there is a lag in the AI startups, and the talent retention is a big challenge. I personally work for a EU company. It's German based, SAP is a German based giant, and we exactly know how much talent, how big a talent retention problem we have, and how much we need to struggle for that. Then in China, the ethical concerns and IP issues and lack of transparency is a weakness. The opportunities wise, US is about entrepreneurship. It is about capitalistic approach to every innovation. It is about diverse applications. And EU is about responsible AI leadership. It is about industry partnership. And China is about a rapid AI adoption, global market expansion, innovation. So these are kind of opportunities in these three. And the threats are the ethical concerns in US, competition, talent retention, and again in US as well, the same problem as I explained in EU. Lagging behind in innovation and regulatory burdens are the two problems that I believe EU is going to face more than the US. And China is always going to be in this, at least in the foreseeable future, in this geopolitical tension scenario and a global competition scenario. So therefore, that will be the threat continuously for them. So this is a kind of an overall summary, and I'm going to walk you through the examples of each of the regulations in each of these geos to substantiate this summary that I built. Okay. So before I start jumping into the United States regulations, any quick questions on which I need to answer immediately?
No, I think it may be better after this segment,
Okay,
sir.
perfect. So in US, like, I think we have done a couple of things which are fantastic. So one is we already have a AI Bill of Rights. And this AI Bill of Rights is about making automated systems work for the American people. And it's a very thoughtful statement there, if you look at. And it's built on these five fundamental principles, that it has to be safe and effective system. The algorithmic discrimination protection has to be built in. The data privacy has to be built in. The notice and explainability, the explainable AI has to be built in. And then the human alternatives and considerations and the fallback, again on the humans, that has to be there. So there, every time you can have the autopilot, but the pilot is always in control of the autopilot. So that's the kind of key here. So what we also have done, which is kind of it's an amazing initiative that we have, the National Initiative Act that became a law actually in 2021. And its mission is to ensure continued US leadership, of course, in the R&D of AI. But we want to lead the world in the development and use of trustworthy AI. Trustworthy is the key here, in the public and private sectors both. And we want to prepare and present the future US workforce for integration of AI systems across all sectors of the economy and society. So I think, like, if you look at from a thought leadership point of view, it's an exemplary Bill of Rights, an exemplary act that we have already in place. So we are also leading the pack, as you can see that pretty much in almost in every space that we can think of, in innovation, in funding, in startups, in even in this acts coming up together, etc. We are doing pretty good. For example, the US Copyright Office is actually pretty much rethinking what is copyright. So the generative AI technology is capable of producing outputs such as text and images and videos and audios, and including emulating a human voice. So would that be considered copyrightable or not? So if it is created by a human author, it is copyrightable. So which means, not no pun intended here, but if a student, for example, creates a homework using AI as a tool, it's it's an acceptable statement. So that's the kind of thought process they're going with. But again, a lot to be debated there. Uh, on the other end, which is the AI arms race side, or like, this full autonomous AI, which is kind of the big unknown, if I may call it. On that side, DARPA and the Air Force of America, essentially, they literally had a test pilot. They performed advanced fighter maneuvers, and their AI agents were performed one-on-one beyond visual range, what they call BVR. It was the engagements against the simulated adversary, and the AI agents performed within the visual range maneuvering known as dogfighting. And this was against a constructive AI red teaming agent. So essentially, in the autonomous space also, a lot is happening, especially in the defense side. On the Federal Election Commission, so this is a beautiful one, where the getting petitions to amend its regulations on fraudulent misrepresentation, to clarify that the restriction and penalties of the law and the code of regulations are applicable. So the candidates and their agents cannot fraudulently misrepresent other candidates or political parties. Okay. NASA, they are turning to AI for designing mission hardware. So they are coming up with these bizarre designs that typically, you, as a conventional engineer, you don't think of. And they are starting to put AI into this space design and space hardware design space. So these are just few examples. These are just few examples, not everything. I do want to give you a little bit of a taste of what the states are doing in this. So because complementing the federal enforcements, in US, the beauty is that we will have to expect a diverse state level AI regulations, because each state is capable of producing their own laws, and they're entitled for that. It's their prerogative, and that's what they do. So New York, for example, has a local law 144, which requires bias audit of any automated employment decision tool. So if you used an AI into a employment decision making, the law requires a bias auditing, which means it requires an explainable AI of that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Colorado, SB 21169, it protects consumers from unfair discrimination in insurance practices that are using AI. California AB 331, it needs impact assessment for developers and deployers of automated decision tools. Texas, Vermont, Washington, they are introducing legislations to conduct inventory of all AI systems, at least in the state systems. So what is happening is that there's a lot of work happening at all levels, and there's a whole list of AI use cases that all federal government departments have come up with, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what the story of US is. And before I jump into European Union, I think Dr. Farrell, you had a question, or
Yes,
can wait?
I think we have one that's and that's in your opinion, how do
Mhm.
you feel these different governmental policies and regulations will impact, constrain, or enable the pace and direction of AI development across the regions?
Excellent question, and it will really stifle it. And I have an answer in my last slide. Okay, so wait for that. But excellent question. So, and as I said earlier, like AI is a global phenomena, global technology. The globe has to come together. We cannot continue to live in silos. So that's the answer. But let's wait for that. So European Union. Let me jump into that if it is okay. So in the European Union, what they have done is they've done a phenomenal job of regulating regulation of the European Parliament and the Council, laying down harmonized rules on artificial intelligence. And the EU Artificial Intelligence Act has been is already there, available for a trilogue. The trilogue is the system they follow for European Commission, Council, and Parliament. They have to come together for final deliberations on the legislation. So this legislation adopts a risk-based approach, imposing limitations based on the perceived level of danger associated with specific AI application. So that's what is happening there. And the act is actually building on a very solid scaffolding, which Europe already has in place. There is an oversight in the tech sector. There's a beautiful, very elaborate, very effective data privacy law called GDPR. And then the Harms of Social Media Digital Service Act is the new one, that law regulating the social media platforms that will take effect in fall of 23. So an example of that, Google had to literally postpone launching of their chatbot Bard in EU because Irish Data Protection Commissioner requested for privacy assessment, and the Italy temporarily banned the ChatGPT amid the concerns over alleged violations of Europeans' data privacy rules. So you see, like, the European regulations have already started taking effect on these two latest bots that are there in the market. One is a ChatGPT from OpenAI, the other is Bard from Google, and both of them had to go through this, had to kind of suffer a little bit because of these regulations already. Okay. So what does it do? And there's a little deeper nuance here, but I want to kind of everyone to take home this message there, that what Europe is doing is they're prohibiting AI practices in a specific Article 5, what they call. And there are two things that they're doing there. Number one, the practices that are causing potential personal and or psychological harm to somebody, a European citizen. So, which means you cannot deploy subliminal techniques beyond a person's consciousness in order to materially distort the person's behavior. You cannot exploit any personal vulnerability due to their age, physical, or mental disability. You cannot assess individuals' trustworthiness over time based on their social behavior or personal characteristics, resulting in unjustified or disproportionate negative consequences for them. So these three, if you look at, like, deeply, they're very, very deep thoughts, and they are thoughts to protect every person in the entire EU. So these are beautiful thoughts, and likewise, the practice leading to potential state surveillance and impacting individuals' freedom. So it comes with that real-time remote biometric identification in public spaces is not allowed. Unless and until you meet a certain criteria for situational usage, like, for example, a terrorism act or terrorism happened and you don't have time to get a court order. So in that time, simultaneously, you can apply for the court order, but but you have to do that before you start taking action. So weighing the impact on the rights and freedom is very important for them, and they're doing it beautifully in this act. Okay. Let me quickly walk you through China as well, because I think, yeah, I want to leave some time for questions very clearly at the end. So in China, what is happening is that China is deeply committed to investing in AI across all sectors. They are treating it as a phenomenal business opportunity. They are treating it as a phenomenal opportunity to make a transformation in their society and their businesses, etc. So they're taking it very seriously at the government level as well as in the industry level, both places. So they're big tech in China, like companies like Tencent and Baidu and Huawei, and all those companies are making significant investment, just like the companies on this side of the planet are doing. And then, in addition to that, their government is also taking a very deep interest in this. So their unique focus is kind of a dual focus, which is they have a state control and at the same time economic dynamism, which is a kind of an interesting dichotomy, but it is there, and it has worked fine with them in the last at least several decades. So hopefully they'll do something very positive out of it. So China has established a China Cyberspace Administration, which is kind of their general administration for all kind of cyberspace work. And it enforces stringent Gen AI measures amongst the world's strictest, as I may call them. So they prohibit generative AI services from creating content that could incite national sovereignty subversion, socialist system overturn, terrorism, extremism, ethnic hatred, discrimination, violence, obscenity, or fake harmful information. So if you look at, like, it's a very comprehensive view, except for like one or two things that, because on this side of the planet we don't believe in those things, and it's their prerogative, of course. But the reality is that there's a very comprehensive approach to the legislations. So China is leveraging AI as an economic tool. They are expected to, again, a McKinsey report on this, I think, yes, about $600 billion of economic value China is estimated to generate out of AI, and all sectors, as you can see here, like, automotives, transportation, logistics, enterprise software, manufacturing, healthcare, life sciences. They're going everywhere with this. In 2021, China attracted $17 billion of our AI startups, nearly 1/5 of the global private investment funding. So that's very significant in one area. Just the AI area got about 20% of the whole funding of the world. Now, in 2021, China also published 1/3 of both AI journal papers and AI citations worldwide. And that's a kind of a big change. That's a very big change. These are foundational science papers which are world class and are being published in the world class forums and magazines and professional forums. So essentially, what is happening is China is coming up very fast on this. The manufacturing and distribution of semiconductors could play a critical role in their AI development. And as many of you might be already knowing, that there's a whole embargo on semiconductor manufacturing machinery, and there's a CHIPS Act through which US is making sure that we don't lose our advantage in this space, and so on. So essentially, like, that could be a big threat as well as a dampener for them. So with that, let me try to start summarizing. We already talked about this earlier, that again, these are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for US, EU, and China. But a very important part is that there are catalysts and there are inhibitors. So on the catalyst side, I would say that research and innovation and access and inclusion are fundamentally beautiful, and they are really giving a lot of acceleration to the technology. But on the inhibitor side, And to answer the question that was asked earlier, the regulatory disparities amongst the countries and amongst the regions is actually technically for the AI technology is a big inhibitor. Likewise, there's a technological divide. Like, not all countries, all regions are equally capable of creating newer innovations and carrying them into the mass productions. And then the third is the risk and ethics management is the approaches to that, the frameworks for doing that, the mental frameworks to even to define an ethic or define a risk. It's a kind of a very subjective problem. And because of that, naturally, the impact is that we start getting inhibitors for AI. So I want to conclude by saying this thing, and I think I said it earlier also, but I want to repeat it. AI is democratizing wisdom, and it is for the first time. So internet democratized the knowledge because everything became digital and was available. But what AI is doing is it is democratizing wisdom. So it is giving you the smart answers that an internet could not give you. It is giving you an answer, human-like answer, an expert human-like answer to you when you're asking it a question. We are stepping into an era of personal AI, and this democratized wisdom is available to everybody. It is not the food of only, like, a billionaire can or a very rich person can essentially have the team of these experts from the best MBA school. It can be anybody, anyone on the planet can essentially has access to the same wisdom, and it is access for all. So with that, I would like to thank you, and I'm now open for questions, and I think we have about 10 minutes for that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jain. Yes, and it's a wonderful presentation. And yes, you've opened up many questions here. So the first is, we will take it from the first question in. How they're especially interested in how AI can be leveraged in quality processes across many industries. Have you seen that in your studies and research or implementations?
Absolutely, absolutely. A great question, and absolutely it can be. So AI is your virtual quality engineer. AI is your virtual calibrator of instrumentation. So anything and everything that we have been doing till date to improve the quality of a product. So you set a benchmark, and then you measure the current state, and then you try to improve, take the current state to that benchmark, is what the iterative process we follow. And AI can follow the exactly same algorithm with the exact same accuracy, but it can just do it faster and easier, and et cetera, et cetera. It can scale very, very large. So as a result, yes, absolutely. And a very good example of that will be not from today, but from 20 years ago or 30 years ago or 10 years ago, that when the car manufacturing first time started using robotics, people say, oh, like, all the workers will be out of jobs and this and that. But no, their jobs did not go away, but rather what happened was the quality of the cars became much, much better because their welding was so much better and smoother, and the quality was so much better in painting, and the quality of the fitting of the glass was so much better, and the accidents reduced, the human lives were saved, etc., etc. So I think it's the exact same thing that's going to happen with this new generative AI generation as well.
Thank you, sir. We have another question from Nathan. What are your thoughts on the effect of quantum computing on AI? And do you believe any one region has an advantage in this regard?
Okay, so I think fantastic question. The quantum computing, in my mind, is I happen to be working in the space deeply, so let me make sure that I'm talking about my personal views here. So in my personal view, quantum computing is bound to happen within few years. It's not a science fair anymore. It is becoming a reality. So that's there. Uh, will it be available, or can it be democratized, and will it be available for AI to like marry with AI? I think we are at least 10, 15 years away from that right now, in my view. But more important question is that if the quantum computing starts collaborating with AI, uh, what will happen? Like, so we don't know. So the short answer is we don't know, because we don't know the kind of computing, quantum computing is going to open up for us, because the kind of at a molecular level, at the atomic level, at the particle level, all those humongous mathematical problems for which our current generation computing is not capable of, quantum computing will make that happen. So as a result, will AI be used in that? Absolutely, because by then AI will be so much more matured from whatever it is today. So I think like the combination of the two will continue moving forward.
Thank you, sir. I see that the next question is, you've answered in part, but I'll ask the rest of the components. This particular Cheryl's interested in how AI is being monitored for accuracy and potential bias, and how does that factor into adoption and use?
So as I said earlier, like, so pretty much in all three geographies, the regulators are sensitive about this part, and a lot of laws are already starting to happen. In Europe, it has happened. In China, it is happening. Even in US, the specific state laws that I mentioned earlier, like in New York and Colorado, so they are starting to happen. So that's kind of the legislative boundary or guardrail, that regulatory guardrail that is coming into place. Then on the other side, because AI, these large language models are being generated and trained and fine-tuned and innovated upon by the big tech and also the open source communities. So I think there's a huge ethical standard and checks and balance standard that is being followed in all that space. So it is not that that some cyber criminal, well, theoretically it is possible that, yeah, like, cyber criminal might actually try to do something about it, but for a very large, I can say very safely, almost majority of the AI development that is happening is very well watched, monitored by and very responsibly done by all the players in the market today.
Thank you, sir. You talked about there being a technology divide with regard to AI. Is there also an education divide? So the question is, how might educational systems and availability of AI related coursework, etc., influence that region's AI capabilities?
Excellent question. So there are two nuances to this question. So one is that, in fact, the places where there is a digital divide and technology divide that exists today, because of the democratization of AI and because of this personal AI availability to all, a kid in Africa and India and China and anywhere in the world has this same access to the same knowledge and wisdom which any kid on this side of the world has. So basically, the digital divide and the technology divide for the masses, AI is going to solve actually. So that's the beauty. The second nuance to that question is that now the AI developers, who are these are the main movers and shakers in AI, the companies that are actually creating these innovations of the new models and investing these mega data centers in just tuning those models and so on. On that one, I think the divide will continue for some time, because after all, it's a big money game, and only large companies or a large government money can support it, if, for example, in defense. So as a result, that divide, I don't believe is going to go away pretty soon. Yes, one thing is definitely going to happen. Countries like India, which are pretty much the IT powerhouse of the world at this point, and so they may or may not innovate to the level of what America is doing today, but they will get the secondary benefit just because majority of the work will be offshored and those people are involved in the same projects. So that will happen. China is already doing great in that, and they not only get that effect, but as I mentioned earlier, I gave you the data. 2021, they are like one of the largest producers of papers which are being accepted in the most stringent high quality journals in the world. So they're doing phenomenal work in those universities. So as a result, I think the technological divide will of the producers will continue for some time. And it will remain concentrated in certain big pockets. But as far as usage is concerned, it's going to be phenomenally ubiquitous all across the globe.
Thank you so much. And I think we'll close. We have one last question, and then I just want to remind everyone on the line tonight that we will have an open discussion area in the ASQ Innovation TC My ASQ area that will continue the conversation, and we will relay that information back and forth with our wonderful speakers. So our last question tonight is they said, can we initialize ChatGPT for comparing changes in ISO and FDA requirements standards? So to list the major changes and then be able to comply against them or upgrade their compliance approach.
The short answer is absolutely yes. And in fact, like I apologize that I totally forgot about the demo that I was thinking of giving you. We can try it right now, actually. So if you can see my screen, it'll take only 15 seconds. So like, for example, while I was just talking to you guys, I asked it okay, an AI expert is giving webinar to 150 inquisitive audiences on AI regulations, covers US, EU, and China. So give me some pictures, and immediately in 15 seconds it generated these 4 pictures, right? So likewise, let's say we ask this ChatGPT that, hey, I'm sorry, remind me the question again, that the regulations, ISO regulations, right?
Yes, exactly. So ISO 27001 compliance from 2022 to say 2023, or version 1 to version 2, sir.
Okay, so on this particular one, I will not be able to do that because it is actually trained up to 2021 data. But if I can say, just compare ISO 27001 to NIST, let's say 853. I'm just going to make up a number. But you see that how quickly it will give me the answer. So it'll give me the answer about origin and authority, the purpose, the scope, the applicability, the control framework, certification, and so on. And then what you can do is now in the prompt, you can continue to improve the prompt. So you can say, hey, focus, give me more details on certification. So you'll see, it'll come up with, I don't know what the answer will be, but you see, here you go. So it gave me so many details on the certification within 5 seconds. If you had asked me that question, it would have taken me 10 minutes.
Yes, and just in full disclosure, we actually asked the ChatGPT questions about our speaker's topic with the description and ask it to create 10 questions. So the questions are actually AI generated.
Right, sir.
Oh, they are. Okay, here you go.
Thank you so very much. So I'm just going to share the screen here just a moment so we can share out our next thing. So again, each and every person on the line, we just want to thank our wonderful speaker, Mr. Sunil Jain, for bringing just a complex and informative and interesting and innovative topic such as AI. And we thank you for your depth and thank you for the richness of your responses and hopefully our further interactions with you as our memberships across ASQ Innovation TC and our ASQ Government Division come back with differing focuses on this very multifaceted topic. So again, thank you for all of our attendees. We welcome you to rejoin us on November 9th, December 7th, and January 19th of 2024 for our upcoming sessions on elevating innovation, more impact, less stress, and our work with unleashing creativity, next-gen innovation for students and practitioners. We also want to thank our sponsor executive team for ASQ Innovation TC, our chair, Ms. Rebecca Mott, our secretary, Ms. Jackie Jolly, and our treasurer and immediate past chair, Mr. Larry Miller. We invite you to attend our ASQ conference coming up towards the latter part of October in Chicago. And again, we welcome you back. Thank you so much, Mr. Jain, for your wonderful information. Thank you to each of our attendees. That will be a wrap for tonight, and we'll invite you to, again, discuss this in our discussion area, and we welcome you back next month. Thank you and good night, everybody.
Bye.